The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything. Admiral Min-Ho Kim stood in the command center of Earth's United Space Command, watching the transmission play for the 5th time. The being on the screen looked like living crystal, its body refracting light in colors humans had never seen before. It spoke in perfect English, though its mouth never moved. "Greetings, humanity. We are the Galactic Council. We have been watching you for many years. You have proven yourselves worthy. We invite you to join us among the stars." Min-Ho paused the message and turned to face the room. Military officers and government officials filled every seat. Some looked excited. Others looked worried. Min-Ho was in the worried group. "They want us to send a delegation," Min-Ho said. "They want to talk about membership in their council." A woman in the front row stood up. Dr. Hannah Park was Earth's best expert on alien languages and cultures. Even though humans had never met aliens until now, she had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. "This is incredible," Hannah said. 47 different species all working together. They're offering us technology, trade, and protection. This could solve all our problems. Min-Ho nodded slowly. "What do they want in return?" "They didn't say exactly," Hannah admitted. "But every alliance has requirements. We'll need to negotiate." The next speaker was Captain Ji-Ho Choi, head of military security. He was younger than Min-Ho, but had fought in the Mars Rebellion and the Asteroid Wars. He understood combat. "I don't like it," Ji-Ho said bluntly. "Nobody gives away technology for free. There's always a cost." "Maybe they're genuinely peaceful," suggested Dr. Yuna Lee, the quantum physicist sitting near the back. She looked too young to be Earth's leading scientist, but she had revolutionized FTL travel before her 30th birthday. "Maybe they've evolved beyond warfare and greed." Ji-Ho snorted. "I'll believe that when I see it." Min-Ho raised his hand for silence. "The decision isn't ours to make. The United Earth Assembly will vote. But if they say yes, we'll need to send our best people. Hannah, I want you leading the cultural delegation. Ji-Ho, you handle security. Yuna, they mentioned technology sharing, so you're essential." "What about a diplomat?" Hannah asked. "I'm assigning Do-Yun Song. He negotiated the peace treaty with the Martian colonies. If anyone can handle aliens, it's him." The meeting continued for 3 more hours. They discussed possibilities, risks, and protocols. By the end, Min-Ho felt more worried than when they started. Something about the message felt wrong. The crystal alien had been too smooth, too perfect. It reminded Min-Ho of salesmen he had met, the kind who smiled while picking your pocket. But Earth was desperate. 3 solar systems, dozens of colonies, and resources stretched thin. The population was growing faster than food production. Energy crises hit every few months. Humanity needed help, and the Council was offering it. The United Earth Assembly voted the next week. The result was overwhelming. 847 votes to accept, 203 votes to decline, 50 abstentions. Humanity would join the Galactic Council. Min-Ho selected his team carefully. Hannah Park would lead negotiations on cultural matters. Ji-Ho Choi would assess military protocols and security. Yuna Lee would evaluate their technology. Do-Hyun Song would handle all official diplomatic communications. Min-Ho himself would command the mission. They traveled in Earth's newest ship, the Horizon. It took 6 days to reach the coordinates the Council had provided. When they arrived, everyone stopped talking. The Council's nexus was beyond anything humans had imagined. It was a space station the size of Earth's moon, floating in orbit around a neutron star. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. The station itself glowed with lights from 100 different species. "That's impossible," Yuna whispered. "The energy requirements alone would drain a star." "How are they powering it?" "I guess we're about to find out," Min-Ho replied. They docked at a massive port that could have held 1,000 ships. The crystal alien from the transmission was waiting for them. Up close, it was even more strange. Its body shifted and changed, never quite solid, never quite gas. "Welcome," it said without speaking. "I am Ambassador Velrith. Please follow me. The Council is eager to meet you." They walked through corridors that seemed to adjust their gravity for human comfort. Everywhere they looked, they saw aliens. Some were massive, towering 4 meters tall. Others were small and quick, skittering along the walls. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Hannah couldn't figure out which end was the head. Velrith led them to a conference chamber. Inside, 12 beings sat around a curved table. Each one represented a different species. At the center sat something that looked like a giant reptile with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red. High Arbiter Quantalix, Velrith announced. May I present the delegation from Earth? The reptile leaned forward. When it spoke, its voice was deep and rumbling like an earthquake. Humans, welcome. We are pleased to meet you at last. Minho stepped forward. Thank you for the invitation. We're honored to be here. Honor is earned through service, Quantalix said. We have much to discuss. But first, let me show you what the Council offers. For the next 3 hours, they watched presentations about Council technology, medical devices that could cure any disease, generators that produced unlimited clean energy, agricultural systems that could feed billions, transportation that made human FTL drives look like ancient steam engines. Do Yun Song took notes on everything. This is remarkable. What would humanity need to provide in exchange? Every member contributes according to their ability, Quantalix said smoothly. We would need Earth to adopt standard Council regulations. This includes reducing your military forces to peacekeeping levels. Violence is not the Council way. Jiho stiffened beside Minho. How much reduction? 80% of your current fleet, Velrith answered. You would retain defensive capabilities, of course, and Council forces would help protect your colonies. That's nearly all our ships, Jiho said quietly to Minho. Minho nodded but kept his face neutral. We would need to discuss this with our government. Of course, Quantalix said. Take your time. Consider carefully, but know that membership is a privilege, not a right. Many species have applied, few are accepted. The meeting ended with pleasantries and promises of future discussions. As they walked back to the horizon, Jiho grabbed Minho's arm. This is wrong. They want us defenseless. I know, Minho said, so what do we do? Minho looked back at the massive station, at the hundreds of species going about their business, at the power and wonder of galactic civilization. He thought about Earth, about the struggling colonies, about children who went hungry and cities that ran out of power. We do our job, Minho said finally. We gather information, we make recommendations, and we let Earth decide. But deep in his gut, Minho knew the decision was already made. Earth would accept. They were too desperate not to, and something about that made his blood run cold. He just didn't know why yet. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Minho watched from the command deck as the last batch of Earth's warships flew toward the scrapyards. Hundreds of vessels that had protected humanity for decades now being dismantled for parts. That's the end of it, Jiho said beside him. His voice was bitter. We're down to 20% of our original fleet. Council regulations, Minho said. Though the words tasted like poison, Earth had voted to accept the Council's terms. The technology they received seemed worth it. New power generators lit up cities that had been dark for years. Medical devices cured diseases that had killed millions. Agricultural systems turned deserts into farmland, but something felt wrong. Minho couldn't put his finger on it, but the feeling grew stronger every day. Yuna Lee had been working with Council scientists on Earth's new technology. She requested a meeting with Minho one evening and her face was troubled. We have a problem, Yuna said, spreading technical diagrams across the table. These power generators they gave us? They require a rare element called trilithium. Earth doesn't have it. So we buy it from the Council, Minho said. That's the problem. Look at these prices. Yuna pointed to a trade document. They're charging us 50 times the market rate. And we need tons of it every month just to keep the generators running. Minho studied the numbers. This doesn't make sense. If the generators need this element, why give them to us in the first place? That's what I'm wondering, Yuna said. The medical devices are the same. They use components we can't manufacture ourselves. We're completely dependent on Council suppliers. Are the other species dealing with this too? I asked around. Yes, everyone buys their supplies from Council-approved vendors at Council-set prices. Minho felt the cold feeling in his gut grow stronger. Keep digging. Find out everything you can. Meanwhile, Jiho had been studying the Council's so-called peacekeeping forces. What he found disturbed him. They don't exist, Jiho told Minho during a secure communication. At least not the way they described. Most member species have almost no military at all. They claimed everyone had evolved beyond warfare, but I checked the records. Species join the Council with full militaries, then dismantle them just like we did. So who keeps the peace? That's what I can't figure out. The Council has enforcement ships, but not many. Nowhere near enough to actually protect 47 different species across the galaxy. Maybe they don't need to. Maybe everyone really is peaceful. Jiho's expression said he didn't believe that for a second. Or maybe there's something we're not seeing. Hana Park had been busy too, but in a different way. She had made friends with a junior council archivist named Thex. The small alien looked like a mix between a frog and a fish, with blue skin and large eyes. Thex worked in the council's historical records division. One night, Thex appeared at Hana's quarters looking nervous. The alien kept glancing over its shoulder as if afraid of being followed. "I need to show you something," Thex said in broken English. "But you must promise not to tell anyone it came from me." "I promise," Hana said, though her heart was racing. Thex handed her a data chip. "Look up the Krell. See what happened to them. Then you'll understand." Before Hana could ask questions, Thex hurried away. Hana took the chip to her quarters and spent all night decrypting it. What she found made her blood run cold. She called Minho immediately. "You need to see this," she said. 3 hours later, the entire team gathered in a secure room on the horizon. Hana projected the files onto the wall. 15 years ago, a species called the Krell joined the council, Hana began. They were a lot like us. Advanced technology, expanding civilization, full of hope. The council offered them membership. The Krell accepted. She pulled up images of Krell cities. They looked beautiful, with towers reaching into the sky and gardens filled with strange plants. The Krell followed all the rules. They dismantled their military. They bought council technology. Everything seemed fine for about 2 years. Then the council revealed the real price of membership. Hana's hand shook as she pulled up the next document. The council demanded that the Krell provide 60% of their industrial output and mining resources. Basically, the Krell would work to enrich the council while their own people struggled. "That's slavery," Do-hyun said quietly. "Yes." The Krell refused. They tried to withdraw from the council. That's when the real council military appeared. The next images showed destruction. Krell cities burning, ships exploding, millions of Krell fleeing their homeworld. "The council has a secret fleet," Hana continued. "Massive, powerful. They keep it hidden from new members. When the Krell resisted, the council destroyed them. Completely, the Krell civilization no longer exists." The room fell silent. Yuna looked sick. Jiho's face was stone. Do-hyun stared at the images like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Minho spoke first. "This is what they're going to do to us." "Not yet," Hana said. "According to these files, they wait until new members are completely dependent on council technology and have no military left. Then they make their demands." "How long do we have?" Minho asked. "Months, maybe." "The pattern is always the same. First they welcome you, then they make you dependent. Then they own you." Jiho slammed his fist on the table. "We need to rebuild our fleet now." "With what?" Yuna asked. "We scrapped most of our ships. The ones we kept are barely enough to patrol our own colonies, and even if we could rebuild, the council has warships positioned near all our major settlements. They call it protection, but it's really occupation." Do-hyun, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "I'll request a meeting with High Arbiter Quantalix. I'll tell him we want to discuss the terms of our membership." "They'll know we know," Jiho said. "We don't have a choice," Do-hyun replied. "Maybe we can negotiate. Maybe we can find a peaceful solution." Minho didn't think so, but he nodded. "Try. But everyone else needs to prepare for the worst." The meeting with Quantalix happened 3 days later. Do-hyun took Hana with him as a cultural advisor. The giant reptilian alien received them in the same conference chamber where they had first met. Do-hyun was polite but direct. "We've discovered some concerning information about how the council treats its members. We'd like to discuss humanity's long-term obligations." Quantalix's red eyes gleamed. You've been speaking with someone you shouldn't have. It doesn't matter. You would have learned soon enough anyway." "So it's true," Hana said. "Of course it's true. The galaxy runs on order, and order requires contribution. Humanity will provide 60% of your industrial capacity and mining output to the council. In exchange, we will not destroy your colonies. That is the deal." "That's not a deal," Do-hyun said. "That's extortion. Call it what you wish. You have 1 week to begin compliance. If you refuse, your colonies will be reduced to debris. We have done it before. The Krell learned this lesson. So did the Narix before them and the Holt before them. You will learn it too, or you will cease to exist." Quantalix stood and his forearms spread wide. "This meeting is over. You are dismissed." Do-hyun and Hana returned to the horizon in silence. When they told the others what had happened, Minho felt the last piece of the puzzle click into place. The council was not an alliance. It was a trap. And humanity had walked right into it. "We have 7 days," Minho said. "The question is, what do we do with them?" Jiho looked at him. "We fight." "With what army?" Yuna asked. "We'll find one," Minho said. And for the first time since learning the truth, he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just decided to burn down the world rather than accept chains. "Get me complete records of every ship we scrapped," Minho ordered. "And find out where those scrapyards are located." "Why?" Yuna asked. "Because we're going to need them." Minho stared at the star map in his quarters. Red dots marked Council warships near human colonies. Blue dots showed Earth's remaining military ships. The blue dots were pathetically few compared to the red ones. This was a war humanity could not win by traditional means. Good thing Minho had never been traditional. He called Captain Taeyeon Nam, commander of Earth's last battle carrier, the Indomitable. She was stationed near Mars, one of the few significant military assets humanity had left. "I need you to trust me," Minho said when her face appeared on the screen. "What I'm about to tell you will sound insane." Taeyeon had fought alongside Minho in the asteroid wars. She knew him well enough to listen without interrupting. "The Galactic Council is planning to enslave humanity," Minho began. "In 5 days they'll demand we hand over 60% of everything we produce, or they'll destroy our colonies. They have the firepower to do it." "How do you know this?" Taeyeon asked. Minho sent her the encrypted files. He watched her face change as she read them, saw the anger building in her eyes. "So we fight," Taeyeon said simply. "We fight," Minho agreed. "But not the way they expect." He explained his plan. As he talked, Taeyeon's eyes grew wider. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard," she said finally. "It might actually work. It has to work. We don't get a second chance." Meanwhile, Yuna had been working around the clock on a problem that seemed impossible. Human FTL drives were crude compared to Council technology. They were slower, less efficient, and sometimes unreliable. But they had one feature that alien drives didn't have. They could be overloaded. "It's dangerous," Yuna explained to the team. "Our drives use a containment field to create a bubble of altered space. If you pump too much energy into the field, it becomes unstable. Normally that's catastrophic. The ship tears itself apart." "How is this helpful?" Jiho asked. "Because right before it fails, there's a moment when all that energy releases in one direction. It's like turning the entire ship into a missile. A very, very fast missile." Minho understood immediately. "How many ships would we need?" "Depends on the targets. One ship could take out a space station. 2 or 3 could destroy a planet's orbital infrastructure. A dozen could cripple an entire fleet. We have thousands of ships in the scrapyards," Minho said. "They're stripped of weapons, but they still have their FTL drives." "Mothballed ships," Jiho said slowly. "We didn't fully dismantle them. We were planning to recycle them later." "Can you make those drives overload on command?" Minho asked Yuna. "I'd need to modify them." "Install remote triggers. It would take time." "You have 4 days," Minho said. "Use every engineer we have." While Yuna worked on the technical side, Jiho focused on the human element. Not everyone had given up their weapons when the Council demanded it. Hidden stockpiles existed across human colonies. Underground groups had formed, veterans who refused to accept the new order. Jiho sent out coded messages to contacts he had cultivated over the years. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people were ready to fight. They just needed someone to tell them how. "We hit them everywhere at once," Jiho explained during a planning session. "The Council is used to species surrendering or fighting desperately in one location. They've never faced an enemy that can coordinate across dozens of systems simultaneously." "We'll need intelligence on Council positions," Minho said. "Already working on it. We have people watching every Council ship near our colonies. When we move, we'll know exactly where they are." Hana had a different kind of mission. She contacted Thex again, the nervous archivist who had first revealed the truth. They met in a quiet corner of the Council station where security cameras didn't reach. "I need your help," Hana said. "I need to send a message to every species in the Council, not the leaders, the regular people. I need them to know what their government has been doing." Thex's large eyes blinked slowly. "That's treason. If they catch me, I'll be executed. If we do nothing, humanity dies. And after us, how many other species will the Council destroy? When does it end?" Thex was quiet for a long time. Finally, the small alien nodded. "There are others like me. Others who are tired of the lies. We can help spread your message." But what will you say? The truth, Hana said. I'll show them what the council really is. Do-hyun had the hardest job. He needed to keep the council thinking everything was normal, while the team prepared for war. He attended meetings, made polite conversation, and negotiated pointless details about trade. Regulations High Arbiter Quantalix seemed amused by the human diplomats. Efforts. You still think you can talk your way out of this? The giant reptile said during one meeting. It's almost charming. Hope is a human trait, Do-hyun replied calmly. We never give up even when we should. Hope won't save you, Quantalix said. In 3 days you will comply or you will die. There is no third option. But Do-hyun smiled because he knew something the council didn't. Humans were very good at creating third options. 2 days before the deadline, everything was ready. Yuna had modified 2,000 FTL drives with remote overload triggers. Each one was essentially a bomb powerful enough to destroy a space station. Volunteers had crewed the mothballed ships, skeleton teams who knew they probably wouldn't survive the mission. Jiho had coordinated with resistance cells across 15 colonies. Weapons had been distributed. Plans had been made. Everyone knew their role. Hana and Thex had prepared their message. It contained all the evidence of council crimes, the truth about the Krell and dozens of other extinct species, and recordings of Quantalix himself ordering genocides. The message was ready to broadcast across the galaxy. Taeyeon had positioned the Indomitable and Earth's remaining military ships in strategic locations. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had surprise on their side. Minho gathered his team one last time before everything began. What we're about to do will change history, he said. We're going to attack the most powerful military force in the galaxy, with ships that barely work and weapons we're not supposed to have. By every logical measure, we should lose. So why aren't we running? Yuna asked. Because humans have never been logical, Minho replied. We're stubborn. We're creative, and we absolutely refuse to accept that we're beaten even when we clearly are. Jiho grinned. I like those odds. The council has been doing this for centuries, Minho continued. They've perfected the art of conquering species without them even realizing they've been conquered. They think they know everything about warfare, but they've never fought humans before. What makes us different? Do-hyun asked. We're willing to burn everything down rather than live in chains, Minho said. The council doesn't understand that. They think everyone values survival above all else. They're wrong. Hana looked around at her teammates, these people who had become like family over the past months. Are we really going to win? I don't know, Minho admitted. But we're going to make them wish they'd never heard of Earth. The next morning, Do-hyun requested a formal session with the Galactic Council. He said humanity was ready to discuss terms of compliance. The council agreed immediately, eager to make an example of the newest species who had dared to question their authority. The session was scheduled for the following day at the council nexus. Representatives from all 47 member species would attend. It would be the perfect stage for humanity's surrender, or so the council thought. Minho checked his communicator for the 100th time. Everything was in position. The modified ships were in place. The resistance cells were ready. Hana's message was prepared for broadcast. Taeyeon's fleet was standing by. All they needed was the signal. One word. Minho looked at his team. Any second thoughts? Everyone shook their heads. Then let's go teach the galaxy a lesson about humanity. The council chamber was packed. Representatives from 47 species filled the curved seating areas. All eyes on the small human delegation standing at the center. Through massive viewports, council warships floated in formation, a reminder of the power that backed the council's authority. High Arbiter Quantalix sat on his throne, his forearms resting on the armrests, his red eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He had given this speech dozens of times to dozens of species. It never got old. We gathered today to welcome humanity fully into the council, Quantalix began. His voice echoed through the chamber. Every member contributes according to their ability. Today humanity will learn what contribution means. Minho stood with his team, appearing calm despite his racing heart. Beside him, Hana looked pale but determined. Jiho's hand rested near his weapon, though it would do no good here. Yuna kept checking her tablet, making sure all the systems were ready. Do-hyun stood at the front, ready to play his part. Humanity will provide 60% of all industrial output and mining resources to the council. Quantalix continued. This is not negotiable. This is the price of membership. This is the price of survival. Murmurs ran through the audience. Some species representatives looked uncomfortable. Others nodded, already knowing how this worked because they lived under the same demands. Do-hyun stepped forward to the speaking platform. The entire chamber watched him, expecting to see fear or anger or desperate pleading. Instead, they saw something else entirely, a smile. Before we discuss compliance, Do-hyun said calmly, I think the council should see something. He activated a holographic display. Immediately, images filled the air above the chamber. Documents, recordings, evidence, the genocide of the Krell, the enslavement of the Narix, the destruction of the Holt, centuries of crimes, all committed by the Galactic Council under the guise of peacekeeping. And at the center of it all, recordings of Quantalix himself, ordering the deaths of billions. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species representatives jumped to their feet, some shouting in their native languages, others pointing at the evidence in disbelief. Several looked at Quantalix with horror as if seeing him for the first time. This is a lie, Quantalix roared. Remove these humans immediately. Guards moved toward the human delegation. That's when Hana triggered the broadcast. The same evidence that played in the chamber was now transmitting to every corner of the galaxy. Every species, every planet, every ship, the Council's crimes were being exposed to everyone. Quantalix rose from his throne, his massive form towering over everyone. You have signed your death warrant. Guards, kill them all. The guards raised their weapons. Minho looked at his communicator. This was the moment. Everything they had planned, everything they had prepared, came down to the next few seconds. He spoke one word into the device. Now, across the galaxy, humanity acted. At the scrapyards in the Kuiper Belt, 2,000 mothballed ships activated. Their skeleton crews, all volunteers who knew this was likely a one-way trip, powered up the modified FTL drives. Each ship had a target: Council trade stations, resource processing facilities, luxury habitats where the Council elite lived. The ships engaged their drives and jumped to FTL. But they weren't traveling normally. Yuna's modifications had turned each drive into a ticking bomb. The ships would arrive at their targets going impossibly fast, and when their drives failed, the resulting explosion would be catastrophic. Captain Taeyeon Nam and the Indomitable led Earth's remaining military in a coordinated strike. They appeared simultaneously near a dozen human colonies, targeting the Council protection fleets. The Council ships were caught completely off guard. They had grown comfortable, lazy even. They didn't expect prey to fight back. The Indomitable destroyed 3 Council warships in the first minute. Taeyeon's tactics were brutal and efficient. No honor, no fair fighting, just pure destruction. She used asteroids for cover, fired from impossible angles, and retreated before the enemy could respond. It was warfare the way humans had practiced it on Earth for thousands of years. Dirty, clever, and effective. On occupied worlds, resistance cells launched their attacks. Hidden weapons came out of storage. Veterans who had pretended to accept Council rule suddenly became soldiers again. They hit Council outposts, supply depots, and communication centers. Every attack was coordinated to happen at exactly the same moment, overwhelming Council security forces. Inside the Council chamber, things were falling apart. Hana's broadcast had reached the other species representatives. Many were now demanding answers from Quantalix. Some were openly calling for his arrest. The guards didn't know what to do, caught between conflicting orders. Yuna pulled up her tablet and showed it to Minho. Red lights were appearing across the map. Each one represented a successful strike. It's working, she whispered. But Quantalix was not done. He roared for silence, and his voice was so loud that the entire chamber shook. Enough, this changes nothing. You are all beneath us. You exist because we allow it. He turned to his head of security. Activate the Nexus fleet. Destroy every human colony. Leave no survivors. That would be a mistake, Minho said calmly. Why? Quantalix snarled. What can you possibly do to stop me? You're standing in the reactor control room, Minho said. Or rather, directly above it. Confusion crossed Quantalix's face. Then understanding, then fear. Yuna held up her tablet. I hacked into the station's systems 3 days ago. The reactor is currently stable, but with one command I can overload it. This entire station, everything within 1,000 kilometers, will cease to exist. You're bluffing, Quantalix said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Am I? Minho asked. Look around. My species just declared war on the most powerful military force in the galaxy, using scrap ships and homemade weapons. Do we seem like people who bluff? Silence filled the chamber. Everyone was looking at Yuna, at her finger hovering over the tablet screen. Jiho spoke next. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to order your fleets to stand down, all of them. Then you're going to release every species from their membership obligations, and then we're all going to have a very long conversation about building something better. And if I refuse? Quantalix asked. Then we all die together, Minho said simply, and maybe that's better than living in a galaxy run by tyrants. The staring contest lasted 10 seconds, though it felt like hours. Minho watched emotions play across Quantalix's reptilian features. Anger, pride, fear, calculation. Finally, Quantalix spoke. You would really do it. You would really destroy yourselves just to hurt us. Without hesitation, Minho confirmed. More silence. Then Quantalix slowly lowered himself back onto his throne. Stand down, he said to his guards. Then louder, all council forces stand down. Cease all operations immediately. Across the galaxy, council ships received the order. Some obeyed reluctantly. Others seemed relieved. On human colonies, the fighting stopped. In the scrapyards, the volunteer crews shut down their drives just before reaching critical overload. They had been seconds away from obliteration. Minho turned to address the entire chamber. The Galactic Council is finished. Not because we destroyed it with weapons, but because everyone now knows what it really is. You've seen the evidence. You know the truth. What happens next is up to all of you. He gestured to the representatives from other species. You can try to rebuild what was here. You can try to maintain control, or you can work with us to create something new, something actually based on cooperation instead of slavery. A voice came from the crowd. It was Thex, the small archivist who had started this by sharing the truth with Hana. What would you suggest, human? A real alliance, Minho said. One where membership is voluntary, where species maintain their sovereignty and military forces, where technology is shared freely, not used as chains, where no one species has power over all the others. That's impossible, said one of the representatives, a tall insectoid creature. There must be order. There must be authority. Why? Hana asked. Because that's how it's always been? Humans have a saying, just because something is traditional doesn't mean it's good. More representatives were speaking now, arguing with each other, demanding explanations, proposing solutions. The chamber dissolved into dozens of conversations happening at once. Quantalix sat on his throne, watching his empire crumble. He looked at Minho with something that might have been respect. You've won, the High Arbiter said quietly. But maintaining peace is harder than breaking it. You'll learn that soon enough. Maybe, Minho said, but at least we'll be free while we learn. The human delegation walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop them. Minho kept expecting an ambush, a last, desperate attack, but nothing came. The council had been defeated not by superior weapons, but by exposure. Their power had always been based on secrecy and intimidation. Once those were gone, there was nothing left. As they boarded the horizon, Jiho let out a long breath. I can't believe that worked. It's not over yet, Minho warned. This is just the beginning, but he was smiling. Because for the first time in months, humanity was not facing extinction. They had looked at impossible odds and found a way to win, just like humans always did. 3 months after the council's fall, Minho stood on the observation deck of the new headquarters. It wasn't grand like the council nexus had been. It was smaller, simpler, built by cooperation rather than forced labor. But it was theirs, the Galactic Compact, they called it. 32 species had joined in the first month. More were coming every week. You look tired, Hana said, joining him at the window. I am tired, Minho admitted. Building something is harder than breaking it. Quantalix was right about that. The former High Arbiter was currently standing trial for crimes against sentient life. Several other council leaders had fled into deep space. Some had been captured. Others remained at large. It would take years to sort through all the corruption. How are the negotiations going? Minho asked. Slowly, Hana said. Everyone wants something different. The Krell survivors want justice. The Narix want reparations. Some species want revenge. Others just want to be left alone. And what do we want? Peace, Anna said simply. Real peace, not the fake kind the Council offered. She had been appointed the first ambassador of the Galactic Compact. It was a job that seemed to age her a year every week, but she handled it with grace. Thex served as her deputy, working to build trust between species that had been enemies under Council rule. Captain Taeun Nam had been promoted to Grand Admiral of the Compact Defense Force. She walked into the observation deck now, bringing a tablet full of reports. "We have a problem," Taeun said. That was how she started most conversations these days. 3 Council ships were spotted near the Outer Rim. They're raiding independent colonies. "Pirates," Jiho said, entering behind her. As head of Compact Intelligence, he tracked every threat to their fragile alliance. Former Council military who went rogue when everything collapsed. "Can we handle them?" Minho asked. "Already done," Taeun said with satisfaction. "The new rapid response fleet intercepted them. No casualties on our side." The new fleet was different from anything that had existed under Council rule. Instead of one species dominating military power, every Compact member contributed ships and crew. They trained together, fought together, trusted each other. It was messy and complicated, but it worked. Yuna arrived last, as always buried in her work. She had been appointed Director of Compact Scientific Initiative, which meant she coordinated technology sharing between member species. "I have good news," Yuna announced. "The Zell just shared their agricultural technology freely. No strings attached. And the Prill offered to teach us their medical techniques." "That's the 3rd major technology share this week," Hana said. "People are actually cooperating." "It's amazing what happens when you don't threaten to destroy everyone who disagrees with you," Jiho said dryly. They gathered around a table for their daily meeting. These 5 people, who had started as a simple delegation, now led the largest interspecies alliance in galactic history. It was exhausting and terrifying and occasionally wonderful. Do-Hyun Song joined them via video link. He was on Earth, working with the United Assembly to draft the Compact Charter, a constitution that would guarantee rights and sovereignty to all member species. "How's the writing going?" Minho asked. "Like herding cats," Do-Hyun said. "Except the cats are from 40 different species and half of them don't understand what cats are. But we're making progress. The charter was crucial. It would define what the Compact stood for, what rights members had, and how disputes would be resolved." Every word was debated endlessly. Every clause had to satisfy dozens of different cultural perspectives. But slowly it was coming together. "Article 7 is giving us trouble," Do-Hyun continued. "Military sovereignty. Some species want a unified command structure. Others refuse to put their ships under anyone else's authority." "Tell them to compromise," Minho said. "Each species maintains control of their own forces. But we coordinate operations through the Compact Defense Force. Voluntary cooperation, not forced submission." "That's what I suggested," Do-Hyun said. "Half of them love it, half hate it." "That's how you know it's a good compromise," Hana said. "When everyone is equally unhappy." They discussed dozens of issues: trade disputes between member species, border conflicts that had existed for centuries, cultural misunderstandings that led to diplomatic incidents. Each problem required patience, creativity, and a willingness to try new solutions. It was nothing like the Council's approach. The Council had ruled through fear and kept everyone separated. The Compact encouraged interaction and dialogue. It was slower, messier, and far more difficult, but it was also fair. Later that day, Minho visited the Krell survivors. About 3,000 of them had escaped the genocide 15 years ago, scattered across the galaxy, hiding from Council attention. Now they were coming home. Their leader, an elderly Krell named Sivan, met Minho at the docking bay. The Krell looked like tall, elegant birds with intelligent eyes and graceful movements. "Thank you," Sivan said, "for everything. For exposing the truth, for ending the Council, for giving us hope." "We should have known sooner," Minho said. "If we'd understood what the Council really was, maybe we could have saved more of your people." "You saved the ones who matter," Sivan replied. "The living. And you prevented the same thing from happening to others. That's worth everything." The Krell had been given full membership in the Compact along with resources to rebuild their civilization. It would take generations, but they had time now. They had a future. That evening, Minho gathered his original team for dinner. Just the 5 of them, like old times. They ate food from 3 different worlds and talked about things that didn't matter. For a few hours, they weren't leaders or ambassadors or directors. They were just friends. "Do you ever think about that day in the council chamber?" Yuna asked. "When we didn't know if the plan would work?" "Every day," Hana admitted. "I still have nightmares about it." "Me too," Jiho said. "But they're good nightmares." "Because we won. We got lucky," Minho said. "If Quantalix had called our bluff about the reactor, we'd all be dead." "It wasn't a bluff," Yuna reminded him. "I really would have done it." They all looked at her. Sweet, brilliant Yuna, who loved solving problems and building things. She would have destroyed an entire space station and everyone on it, including herself, to stop the council. "That's what they never understood," Taeyeon said. "They thought everyone valued survival above all else. They couldn't imagine people who would rather die than submit." "Is that a human thing?" Hana asked. "Or is it universal?" "I think it's universal," Minho said. "The council just forgot it. They'd been in power so long that they forgot what desperation makes people capable of." Months became a year. The compact grew to 50 member species. The charter was finally completed and ratified. Quantalix was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. The council's secret fleet was dismantled or integrated into the compact defense force. Slowly, the galaxy began to heal. Minho stood once again on the observation deck, watching ships come and go. Every ship represented a story. Species meeting for the first time. Trade agreements being signed. Cultural exchanges happening. Problems being solved through discussion instead of domination. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still disagreements, still species who refused to join or cooperate. But it was better than what came before. "Thinking about retiring?" Taeyeon asked, joining him. "Every day," Minho said. "But not yet. Too much work left to do. There will always be too much work. That's how you know it's worth doing." Minho smiled. "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I stopped being just a soldier," Taeyeon replied. "Turns out there's more to life than fighting." The word had spread across the galaxy. That single word Minho had spoken in the council chamber. Now, it had become more than just a signal. It had become a symbol. Other species used it when they stood up to local tyrants, when they refused unfair demands, when they decided to fight instead of submit. Now meant the moment when the oppressed chose to resist, when the powerless reclaimed their power, when victims refused to remain victims. Humanity hadn't set out to inspire the galaxy. They had just wanted to survive. But in refusing to accept chains, they had shown others that freedom was possible. Years passed. The compact continued to grow. New challenges arose and were met. Some species left, others joined. Leaders changed, but the principles remained the same. Cooperation, sovereignty, mutual respect, and the right to self-determination. Minho did eventually retire. He returned to Earth, to a small house near the ocean where he had grown up. He wrote his memoirs, taught at the academy, and watched humanity continue to evolve. Hana became Secretary General of the Compact, leading the alliance for 20 years before passing, the role to a leader from another species. Jiho built an intelligence network that prevented 3 major wars and stopped countless smaller conflicts before they began. Yuna won the Nobel Prize in the Compact, Medal of Science for her work on shared technology initiatives that lifted billions out of poverty. Taeyeon commanded the Compact Defense Force through its most critical years, ensuring that military power remained a tool for protection, not oppression. Dohyun's charter became the foundation for a new kind of civilization, one where power came from cooperation rather than coercion. And the word now remained passed down through generations, a reminder of the day humanity taught the galaxy that tyranny could be defeated and that freedom was worth any price. The Galactic Council had deceived humanity, had tried to enslave them, had threatened their extinction. Humanity's reply had been a single word, and that word had changed everything.